Thank you guys for joining. Again, I know there's a lot of data, a lot of information to consume. As you heard from Gareth, I am Andrew Morrisett. I lead our endpoint security product here at Qualys. Been with Qualys for 4.5 years. Most of that time has been in endpoint security. Now, what I want to talk about today is challenging the way you think about incident response, challenging the way you address threats. Part of that, we're going to look at the life of SOC analysts, the life of your team that respond to threats. So most of it starts looking like this. And you guys can probably see, it's an alert that something's not good, something's wrong, there is a threat. Now it's a 911 call, but what severity is it? Do you need to send all of your troops to go address it? Do you need to just send one officer to go evaluate? That's usually where the mindset starts, right? In worst case scenario, it turns into something like this. And I always use the analogy of like when you deal with a big incident, big threat, it's like your house catches on fire. The faster you can figure out all of this, the faster you can put out the fire and the faster you can make sure that no other house is burned down. But this is a lot. This takes a lot of expertise, takes a lot of interpretation, takes a lot of digging through the details and correctly interpreting the details for what they are. So let's look at how attackers end up looking at your environment, right? They recon your environment, which our aspect of that is ESAM, right? Getting the attacker's perspective. They weaponize and then exploit. This is vulnerability management. This is seeing and scanning your environment for vulnerabilities. Delivery is either exploiting that remotely, either delivering a exploit via phishing or another mechanism, exploiting misconfiguration. But it seems kind of interesting that the SOC teams usually only start when there's an exploitation already happening, right? So we have one team that deals with this side of things, and then we have an IT security risk team, which I think a lot of you will relate to, that deals with the other side of the attack flow. But this is their entire attack flow. So it's interesting to look. I always put this chart up a lot. We know these groups exploit vulnerabilities. We know these groups exploit misconfigurations. That's how this all comes together. It brings up an interesting question because if this is their attack flow, we have two different teams that usually do this. Are the teams talking to each other? Are they interacting when there's a threat? Are they sharing information, or is there more silos that occur? So this is traditionally what the SOC team is looking at. There's a lot more that goes into this, but just at a high level, right? What is this detection? What does it mean? What does it look like? Is this somebody clicking on a link? Is this somebody downloading something they shouldn't? Or is this somebody who's hands-on keyboard absolutely attacking my environment where I need to get everybody on board, we need to do something to it? But as I just showed you, there's a lot more that comes to evaluating threats. So if you were to correctly and properly and holistically approach a threat, sorry, I went too far, you would realistically want to consider all of these facets, right? And do so in real time. And I think we get caught as an industry really focusing on these things probably before an attack, which is the proper way to do it too. You want to prevent as much as you can. But if there is an attack, wouldn't it be great to know if some of these things would contribute to an attack spreading or becoming worse? Absolutely. So it's just something to broach the question of rethinking how is your team addressing risk? Not just before, but are you interacting with your SOC team when they have an attack, an actual serious incident? Are you interacting with them to say, okay, what threats are you seeing? Let me fix the vulnerabilities that are related to those. Let me patch the things that I know that are related to the malware that's coming in. Do you even have the threat intelligence to make that correlation, right? These are the questions we want to ask. So that's why we, as you've heard the word risk a lot, right? We're addressing this at Qualys in a serious way because we see that gap, and we know that a lot of teams want to address this. Some teams we've talked to do it 2 weeks after an attack, which I think ultimately you want to solve what you can solve, but what if you could do this real time? So I'll show you in the demo how we do this. Obviously, we have a very strong authority in vulnerability intelligence, so we know how we can connect malware to vulnerability detections. So that's one challenge we're seeing in the industry in terms of incident response. The next one is this, which I hate to use the AI buzzword, because also our innovation that I'm going to show you is AI, but it is making things hard. Now, I'll tell you a story which probably should scare you more than this. If I consider myself decently technical, but compared to some of the folks in this room or folks on our threat research team, I don't know very much. But if I can go download a malware template, I can run a tool that tells me where AV detects every line of code in C++, and then I can have AI automatically rewrite those parts. So in about 15 minutes, I could have an undetectable sample, and that's me. I could do that today. And I could email it to one of you, and you'd open it, it would go undetected most likely. That's scary, and that's what AI is helping to enable, right? It's helping to enable social engineering, all of these facets, particularly the ransomware creation. Now, the last one too, we've seen some projects come out where these AIs are able to identify vulnerabilities that you have and automatically create potentially custom scripts to go interact and exploit them. So what are we doing to address that? We're bringing AI to the defense as well. So we've had AI like machine learning detections in our product for a long time. To be honest, that's table stakes. You have to have that level. But how are we enabling the defender, right? That slide, the second slide I showed you, it has a bunch of lines and all the relationship. How are we making that simpler? How are we making that easier? So I'll show you in just a second. This is a screenshot kind of to tease it, but we're essentially introducing step one is AI summary. So we have a lot of data points we can show you in our product, but what if we just handed to you the top insights in a silver platter? That's really what we're going for. We can switch. There we go. So what this is actually what it likes to kind of look to use our product today. You get an alert. You can tell very quickly that this is Ransom Hub. This was a training group that we saw last year attack our customer base quite a bit. They're very aggressive. They're very quick. But to the point of the details, we provide a lot of insights. This is a timeline, step by step. How did the attack unfold? We have a process tree that also maps relationships. So that slide 2 I mentioned, right? We try to show you a lot of the details. This is the key part where we try to change the dynamic significantly. So if there are malware or IOCs we can associate, so Ransom Hub, we know what CVEs they exploit. It's been very well documented. Sure, there are some that they may choose to do off the cuff, but there's some we know for sure. So it's in their playbook. It's maybe in their AI automation. So if we tell you we detect ransomware in your environment, or Ransom Hub, that is a ransomware group, and you know what CVEs they exploit, it's pretty, you want to fix those obviously, right? And so that's the thing we're seeing is that doesn't seem to be as connected as we might hope. So we're trying to show you in real time, your SOC team could go, hey, we have all these vulnerabilities, total amount of hosts that are exposed, and now you have a risk quantification. If your CISO asks you, hey, you guys have an attack going on, it looks like it's just one device. What are the chances this spreads beyond this one device? Most teams, kind of hard to give them an answer. Well, they're kind of attacking us. Maybe they could attack more, maybe not. Now here you have an answer to give them. Be like, well, given that we have a bunch of hosts that have known CVEs that this group goes after, guarantee they're looking at these vulnerabilities in your environment, right? They're scanning for them in some capacity. So this is the empowerment we're trying to give that we do today. We also give it for misconfigurations, and the CSAM portion of it is the asset hygiene. That's coming as well. So I'll pause here. This is another unique feature that we have. This is anti-ransomware. So this ransomware mitigation, what it does is it scans for encryption activity. And if there's a certain amount of encryption activity that we detect is above a certain randomness, essentially we know what good and bad encryption looks like. If that's detected, we will go save copies before that encryption of all the files that we can on your asset. So what just happened to Marks and Spencer? If they were using this solution, we would save as many files off their devices as possible for Windows. So pretty incredible. This ships with our product. And you can restore files. I've done it where I've encrypted like 1,100 files on one desktop and was able to restore all of them. This is where the innovation comes out with AI. So we're trying to basically, you saw all the data we provide. There's a timeline that you can click through everything. You can see every little bit of detail, right? That's our job. We have to give you every detail possible because you want to interpret what happened. You want to see what happened. But what if I gave you a summary in a human format? This just says, hey, instead of you looking at all the data and interpreting what happened, we'll just tell you straight up, complex attack with all of these different items that happen. We give you a little bit more of a brief timeline just to say like, hey, these are the key points. And then we give you some items down below that will really be compelling. So the next parts down below this are going to be like next steps and additional insights. So we technically can't tell you what to do next, but we give strong recommendations and MITRE attack techniques as well. That's always a good mapping of everything. So you can see supporting insights just saying, hey, we noticed they enabled the guest account. Maybe something that should trigger your brain to say, is there any other guest accounts enabled throughout my environment that I don't know about, right? That there's a perfect threat hunting system or mechanism to go next after. This next step is really the crucial part. So just like we showed you in that summary where, hey, here's the vulnerabilities and misconfigurations that we know are associated with Ransom Hub, the AI summary is saying, hey, you have top 3 misconfigurations. You have SMB version 1 enabled on some of your devices. And it's telling you that this is probably going to enable a lot of lateral movement, which is very true. So now again, your brain triggers, all right, this is actions I can take right now to not let this burn down my house, right? To not let my neighborhood catch on fire. Same with the last one here. I realize it's probably a little small for you guys, but basically at the very bottom it says the CVEs will do the same. It says, hey, here's CVEs on 10 assets that if you fix today, would rapidly reduce the ability for this attacker to get on more assets and do more damage. The next phase of this that we're working on, you've heard of Agentic AI, all these buzzwords. I hate to say these things, but they are high utilities. Is we want to have the ability where this is done for you. You can define in Qualys that this is something that, hey, you guys are telling me this is great, you're making the AI summary, you're handing it to me as simply and straightforward as you can. Do you want us to do these actions for you? Do you want this remediation? Do you want this to be added to a patch job? Right? Ideally, this would all be remediated in the foreground, but this is how we're trying to think differently at Qualys because, again, you saw how much information we can give you, how much detail, the utilities we offer you from you can kill or quarantine anything, you can set up customized automation rules, but the more we can do for you, the more that we simplify things, the better. So with that said, this is our innovation piece. Happy to show to anybody, this is a feature we're going to release the next few months. It does exist already technically. So yeah, this is what I wanted to show you guys. I know I'm a minute short, but appreciate your time. Oh, sure. Yeah. If anyone has a question, we have a minute left, so just want to leave that open.
Your file backup process that you showed us there, that's really interesting. Where does the file back up to, and are there storage constraints? Is it PCI, Swift compliant, that sort of thing?
No, so the way it works is the entropy engine that we have for encryption, once it detects encryption, it saves copies of all the files, and you can specify what you want saved and what you want excluded. So what a lot of customers will do today is they'll just choose a few core places that they have for files. But to answer your question directly, it saves it in memory in the device. So it's not sending it to another location. It's not sending it to our cloud. That's something we've considered in the past. But the really high utility is to get them the speed and the acceleration, because otherwise then we'd be sending a bunch of files, and sometimes there's network bandwidth that gets cut off. So we do a quick grab to save as much as we can. And like I said, the example, I've done it where I'm like, hey, save almost every file on this desktop, 1,100 files, and it did all, huge grab. So I know that the utility is high. The limitation sure is the memory, but yeah, we grab as much as we can. So for most assets, that works well. One more? Yeah.
Hello. So coming back to the previous answer, you said about saving files in the memory. So does that mean once the device is turned off, the files disappear or like somewhere preserved?
No, it still should be preserved in the memory of the asset. It doesn't go away. You still have the ability to recover it. But then that's a good point and a good question. It should be retained in a way where you're not, someone just turns it off. You're not out of luck.
I had a question about the isolate button. What does that exactly do?
Yeah, good question.
It isolates it, but how does that technically work?
Yeah, okay, technically work. Well, it's a little bit different on each operating system. So the way it works is it's trying to, at an application level, prevent any sort of outbound connection except for to Qualys. Now you can specify whether you want other tools or other IPs to also access the device, but it's not just simply like, I know, well, for those who don't know, some vendors, the way they isolate a host is just by updating your firewall, which is very limited, it's very basic. We do it at a kernel level or a much deeper level, application level, to essentially ensure that we are locking down that device. Because if a ransomware actor is on there, they have tools and applications that are wanting to talk out, you want to cut them off at all aspects. So, yeah. Okay, thank you very much.